Hi, Kylie. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I feel like this week has been a little tough. I've felt very anxious, but other than that, I'm doing okay.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about that. When you say anxious, how does that look? What is, do you have body responses or thoughts or both?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like I will um get some sort of panic attack. It might be called a panic attack. I'll just get really kind of overstimulated and I'll have to go somewhere by myself to calm myself down. That doesn't happen too often. I would say maybe once a month. But more on the daily, I feel like I just have a lot of thoughts in my head of what is going to happen in the future and what if this happens and what if this happens. I feel like just worrying about a lot of things is what I've been dealing with.
Okay. That sounds really difficult. And when that happens and you start feeling overwhelmed or overstimulated, what do you usually do to try to help yourself through that?
Um, I feel like I haven't found exactly like what helps me the best. Sometimes I'll just take deep breaths. I feel like that's what I've been doing recently. Or just removing myself from a situation. If I'm in a situation that makes me anxious, like out in public, I'll just leave. But I feel like I definitely haven't found like exactly what helps me the best.
Okay. So a lot of times when we begin to feel anxious, our body will give us warning signs before the anxiety even comes on. So this week, I'd really like you to pay attention to your body and maybe jot some things down either before or after the anxiety. And notice, did your heart start racing? Did your palms get sweaty?
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes people's faces turn red. There's all different ways that we can our bodies start to respond to anxiety. And when you notice that happening and there's change in your behavior, change in your response to the environment, you can reach for a coping skill a little earlier and maybe not have to go into a full-blown panic attack or maybe lessen the symptoms or not feel anxious as long. One of the really evidence-based ways to kind of lower blood pressure and bring a calm to the body is through breath work. I don't know
Okay.
how familiar you are with that.
Not very familiar.
Okay, so some people call it belly breathing because what you want to do is really just fill up your belly. Um,
Hmm.
and when you start to feel anxious or feel like you have racing thoughts, try to see if you can disengage your mind from just any kind of distracting thoughts or sensation and take in really deep, slow breaths. Let them expand your lungs and even kind of expand your belly, and then hold them for about 5 seconds and then release through your mouth like you're blowing through a straw.
Okay.
And repeat those, a few times. And then maybe in that same journal where you're logging um, your body's responses to anxiety, you can see if that is something that helps you.
Okay.
Another thing is, a lot of times behaviors are um, kind of correlated to environments and that in an environment will trigger a behavior. So once you really get a good grasp of coping skills, you could start to expose yourself a little more to situations that typically make you anxious and see if the breathing works or, you know, how you're doing in those situations after you have a few coping skills.
Okay.
Um, Another thing that you could try that's very easy to remember is the five senses. So when you're feeling anxious, you name five things that you can see around you, five
Mhm.
things that you can smell, five things that you can think about tasting, five things you may be able to touch, and five things that you can hear. And it
Mhm.
kind of distracts your mind from the overstimulating or your own thoughts. It could kind of be a grounding exercise. So I wanted to give you a couple of tools this week and, we can check in next week and see how they helped.
Yeah.
Um, did you have any questions for me about either of those?
I don't think so. I think that it will really help me. Because like I said, I've been doing just deep breaths, but I think this specific technique should help me. Because that's been helping me a little bit, but not to the full extent. So hopefully, these tools will help me be able to calm myself down before it gets to those panic attacks.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah,
All right. Well, I will see you next week, Kylie, and we'll check in to see how things are going.
perfect. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.